This episode may contain content that could be distressing or objectionable to certain listeners. Please refer to the episode show notes for details. Discretion is advised. Hello, listeners. Welcome to Your Movie, My Movie with Dan and Steve.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve. This is a podcast where one of us picks a movie to watch and we discuss it together. This episode, however, is a special episode where we're testing new technical arrangements. For this episode, we'll be discussing the 2005 movie The Call of Cthulhu, starring John Bolin, Ralph Lucas, Chad Pfeiffer, John Clementansky, Jason Owen, D. Grisby Poland, and David Mersault. Written by Sean Branney, based on the story The Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft, and directed by Andrew Lehman. We will be talking about spoilers, so if you want to watch the movie first, now's the time to do so. But before we talk about the movie, Dan, who would you recommend this movie for?
Thanks for asking, Steve. I would recommend this movie to lovers of Lovecraft and people who want to watch a full-ass movie in under an hour.
Yeah.
This was crazy. This was weird.
Really? You think so?
I mean, it wasn't weird. It was just impressive and a little bit mind-boggling because it felt, again, like a whole movie in 45 minutes. It was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great.
Steve.
Yes, Daniel.
Who would you recommend this movie for?
I would recommend this movie for people who don't know Lovecraft and want to know what the big deal is.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think this is, a movie that, it's only 45 minutes long, and if you've never read a Lovecraft story, it kind of shows you what you're getting into. If you don't want to read it or if you've never read Lovecraft. So yeah.
I could see that. I agree with that.
Have you read Lovecraft? Have you read any Lovecraft?
I haven't read any Lovecraft because I'm not a racist. I'm just kidding.
No, Lovecraft was a racist.
I'm just kidding.
You don't have to be racist to enjoy Lovecraft.
I thought I would bring that up.
I mean, it helps, but no.
I thought I would bring that up in the beginning of the episode.
No. It's so funny. It's so funny when people bring up to fans, hey, did you know that Lovecraft was a racist? And I'm like, yes, of course I know. I've read his stories. You're not telling me anything new. So
no.
But you don't enjoy Lovecraft for the racism. You enjoy it for the other things.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, so I've listened to LibriVox recordings of H.P. Lovecraft stories and audiobooks and stuff. Everyone should listen to LibriVox. It's really cool. It's just like public domain people reading. Sometimes you get sweet old librarians go ahead.
I love the one for Dracula. Because Dracula, it's an epistolary novel. It's a novel written in letters. And in one of the LibriVox versions, there's a different narrator for each character who writes a letter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I highly recommend that one, if it's still around. So
that sounds impressive.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was listening to some H.P. Lovecraft on like a Spotify audiobook as well as some LibriVox recordings. And they're really, really fun to listen to. Very spooky. I was playing Skyrim when I was listening to it, so it was like the perfect background. Because Skyrim is pretty mindless for the most part, for me at least, just kind of like a fun thing to play. So I like to have things on in the background. So that was like perfect. Or maybe in the foreground. Maybe that's what I mean. I don't know.
Okay. So this movie, it was created by the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society.
Oh.
And they also do dark adventure radio theater.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is like a radio drama adaptations of Lovecraft stories. But they also have readings of the stories as well. I believe they're done by Sean Brainey, who wrote this movie. He did some of the readings, and the other reader for that was Andrew Lehman, who was the director.
Oh,
so yeah.
That sounds really cool. I haven't listened to like one of those radio theater things in a while.
Okay, yeah, they're great. My favorite one is, I believe it's called Brotherhood of the Beast, and that's actually it's not an adaptation of a Lovecraft story. It's an adaptation of a campaign for Call of Cthulhu.
Oh.
Yeah, which is a role-playing game by Chaosium that was made in like 1980 or 81. So, it's almost as had a long life as, Dungeons and Dragons. So
I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah. So yeah, Brotherhood of the Beast. And one of the cool things is that so the Dark Adventure Radio Theater shows, they are about an hour and 15 minutes. And the reason why is so that they can fit on a CD.
Ah, okay.
And the thing is Brotherhood of the Beast, it has 4 different endings. And the reason why is because if you get them in CD, the last CD is all 4 endings, and then you can randomize it to see which ending you get.
That's cool. Like the last track, yes. You mean? Or what do you mean?
No, the last CD has 4 different tracks, and then you randomize which one you get.
That's really cool.
So, yeah. So
that's so fun. I miss that kind of like interactive art. Like there's not as much of that nowadays. It's more like, well, it's all just either too easy to find or I don't know. It's I think it's a little bit different without physical media. You don't spend as much time with things. Oftentimes you just kind of stream something or watch a video. There's not as like go ahead.
They have an audiobook version of it, and when it's the audiobook version, they just go through all 4 endings in a row.
Nice.
So yeah. But yeah. It's they do have that kind of thing, but with video games, it's called FMV games, full motion video games. And what that is they record actors doing live action scenes, and then they take those clips and then make a game out of it. So it's like a choose your own adventure movie, kind of like Bandersnatch on Netflix, Black Mirror.
Yes, I've watched some people play some of those games, like particularly bad ones, and just like laugh about it. And but it seems like a really neat idea. Like I like the idea.
I love them.
We should play some sometime. That'd be fun.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Before we get into the nitty gritty of this movie, you have the 2-minute summary for it that you got to do.
Oh God, I forgot about this. All right. 1 second. Let me get my timer out.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Ready?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. Okay, so a guy inherits some files from his uncle. And they're all about his uncle investigating a string of different things. His uncle's a scientist. He interviewed this guy who was having crazy nightmares. Then he also wrote down stories about this inspector that showed up to like a gathering of scientists, and the inspector wanted information on this statue, which he found a bunch of cultists worshiping, I think. And then they wanted to know where the statue came from, but not really anybody knew about it. But the statue was had inscribed writing that one of them was a little bit familiar with. And then eventually, the guy, the main character, he happens upon this other article that tells him where the statue came from. It came from a shipwreck, which came from an island. Basically, he tracked down the mystery of this idol, and all the twists and turns to find out the story of how it got to where it is, which is in Rhode Island or New England in America. And yeah, he was driven mad by it, just as everyone else had been who had investigated this statue. I'm done.
Okay. There's a lot to delve into because I believe there are 4 statues in this movie. Okay.
4?
Yeah, they're all different statues if you go back and watch. Because the first statue is the bas-relief statue done by the art student, Henry Wilcox, who gets the nightmares. Okay. So he does a bas-relief.
But that's like a tablet.
Yeah. It looks like a tablet, but if you notice, it looks kind of like Cthulhu, but it's a bas-relief. It's not a 3D. It's, on a tablet. So there's one.
Okay.
Let's see. The second one that we see is the one that Inspector Legrasse brings to the American Anthropology Society.
Yeah.
Okay. The third one is the one that we see that Professor Eyepatch found from the deranged Eskimo cult like 30 years prior to that. Okay,
yeah.
And the fourth statue we see is the one that was in New Zealand that Johansson dropped off. And he picked that one up from the island of Relay, which in the last part of the movie. Right. So before he goes off to Oslo, his hometown. Yeah.
Okay. So the guy was gathering the information that connected all these statues.
Yeah.
On Cthulhu, on the cults and the gods.
Yeah, well, so what happened was his uncle, who in the story, his name is so the narrator, the main character, his name is Francis Wayland Thurston. Okay.
Okay.
Why are you laughing?
It's just an annoying name, but I like it at the same time. I don't know.
Okay. I love Lovecraftian names. I love these kind of names. Well, his great uncle is George Gamel Angel. Angel with 2 L's.
Of course it is.
Okay, so what happens is he dies in 27, and then all of his stuff gets inherited by Thurston.
Yeah.
So Thurston is going through it, and that's when we see the bas relief sculpture done by the art student Henry Anthony Wilcox. And let's see, when did these happen? In March of, I believe in the movie, it was March of some year. The Wikipedia plot does not provide the dates, and the dates are very important to keep track of all this stuff.
Not really. They're not that important.
No, it is important if you want to understand exactly what's going on. You know, I mean, if you don't want to just go by the vibes of this movie like you probably did, and that's okay. That's okay too. So what happens is this art student is getting these visions, these nightmares of this strange city. Okay. And what happens is Professor Angel tells him to record your nightmares. And the reason why is because he recognizes, because one of the things that Wilcox hears is the name Cthulhu. And so Angel recognizes that from the 1908 Archaeological Society meeting, which is when Inspector Legrasse shows up and tells his story.
Yeah.
And his story is that in the bayous of Louisiana around New Orleans, there were people going missing around that area. So he and a band of policemen decide to go into the swamps and find out who the culprits are. And the people living there, they don't want to help them, but because their kin are being, taken and never disappearing, they decide to help the police, and they guide the police through the swamps to where there's a huge bonfire where cultists are having this, debauched, depraved orgy as they worship, that statue of Cthulhu. I got ahead of myself because Legrasse asked any of the professors if they recognized the statue.
Yeah.
And that's when Professor Eye Patch, he talks about how he was investigating, a deranged Eskimo tribe who worship Cthulhu. And that's how he lost his eye when one of them stabbed him in the eye. So Professor Eye Patch recognized
an axe device thing, like a hand. I forget what it's like, some kind of weapon, but it looks like an axe blade. But it's held.
Maybe like they used to, or like they used to, climb the ice with.
No.
Okay, they didn't have the budget for that, I guess. But anyway, so Professor Eye Patch, he recognized the statue, but he never knew what the statue was about. Yeah. Well, Legrasse then tells them, "Well, I know what it's about. It's about Cthulhu." And then he goes into the story about, them finding the cultists, having their orgy, and then arresting all that they could, and then capturing the statue. And then that's when they talk to Castro. And Castro is one of the main cult guys. Yeah. Because he's an older man, so he's been in the cult for a long time. So, so Professor Eye Patch before, all the Eskimo would say is, let's see. It's famous. It's Figlui, Maglunaf, Cthulhu, Rillier, Wagnoggle, Fatagan. That's what the Eskimo told to Professor Eyepatch.
Yeah.
And then Legrasse is like, well, I know what that means because Castro told me. And he said that it means in his house at Rillier, that Cthulhu waits dreaming. Yeah. And then he goes on about, the great old ones, they're asleep in the earth and they won't wake up until the stars are right. And until then, they, worship them and they wait for them to rise so that the rise of the great old ones can create a new dark age in which, they'll be on top. So that happened in 1908. Okay. So first, Professor Eyepatch.
Are we going to go through the whole plot?
Explain it. A little bit. Well, it's great. Yeah. I will. So Professor Eyepatch, this happens to him in the 1870s. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And in 1908, Inspector Legrasse shows up and tells them what he knows. And then years later, I think in like the 1920s, Professor Angel recognizes the word Cthulhu from Henry Wilcox. Okay. And then he also, during that time, he gets all these clippings of strange phenomena that happens all at the same time, all around the world. And then he dies.
Uh-huh.
And in the story, it's implied that he died by Cthulhu cultists.
Ooh.
Yeah, like he was getting too close to the truth. And so he dies, but he has all this evidence. And then, what's his last name? Thurston Wayland? Thurston, he inherits it. So he goes through all the evidence himself. And he's not able to put it all together until he's in a museum and he's going over like rock samples that have been covered in old newspaper.
Well, he had tried to unravel the mystery for a long time. And gotten obsessed with it, but then he reached a dead end or just needed to go back to his own studies because he knew it was leading to madness. And so then when he was like unwrapping rocks, he saw an article that led him back into the mystery. He couldn't resist but to go back into investigating it.
Yeah. And that news article was about how, let's see. I wrote it down. It was like a derelict ship found at sea. That was like the headline for that article, because back then even the articles like had their own summary headlines. And so he noticed it and he read it and he saw in that article was a picture of the statue of Cthulhu, which you recognize from the other statues.
Yeah.
And so then he took all of the dates from what happened in that news article about the shipmates. And he also read, well, I don't know. Well, what also happens is he goes to New Zealand to try to check out Johansson. And Johansson is the name of the survivor. But Johansson isn't in New Zealand. He went back to Oslo. But while he's in New Zealand, he looks at the Cthulhu statue that he left there that's in the museum. So he goes to Oslo to Johansson's house. Well, Johansson has died. Maybe by cultists. And he has his wife there. But his wife, she can't read or speak English. So what Johansson did was he wrote a journal of his experience in English, so his wife couldn't read it, and so she'd be safe. Yeah. And then she hands it to Wilcox, not Wilcox. He hands it to Thurston. She hands it to Thurston,
Right.
Who then uses it to put all the pieces together, which is when Wilcox had his dreams, when his nightmares were at the greatest. It's when the island of Relay rose up out of the sea. And then and what happened, so what happens in the books, it's a lot more awesome, because Johansson is on the ship called a fishing trawler called the Emma, and they're in the South Pacific, but they come across a ship called the Alert. Now in the movie, the Alert is deserted, but it was at the coordinates where the island of Relay rose up. But in the story, what happens is the pirates are cultists, so the Emma is like coming across them, but the Alert is like, hey, we got to kill those guys, or else they'll find our secret island. There's actually a battle in the story. Yeah, and so the sailors on the Emma, they go on the Alert. And then they take the Alert back to Relay because it's in the log. That's where they get the coordinates. And then they explore the island, and it's like super huge, and there's non-Euclidean geometry. Like it says, like a guy was on a place, and it looked like the angle was acute, but he fell as if it was obtuse. Yeah. And then what happens is Cthulhu awakes briefly and comes out through that door, and then the sailors try to make their escape back to their ship, while Cthulhu, this giant squid monster with tentacles for a mouth and bat-like wings, chases after them. And there are only two survivors who get to the ship, Johansson and one guy who's totally insane. And so Johansson is trying to build up steam in the ship's boiler to try to escape Cthulhu, but there's not enough steam yet. So what he does is he turns around and tries to ram it through Cthulhu, which works. And in the story, I think it says something like, when the ship rams into Cthulhu bursts like a soap bubble.
Okay.
And the reason, so what happens, you find out what, and so they're able to make their escape. And the reason why is because the stars aren't right yet for Cthulhu. They almost are, but not quite yet. So, yeah. So what are your thoughts on the movie? Like, did you like the movie? Did you like the story? What thoughts do you have?
I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the story.
Okay. By the way, we should mention that this was done as a silent movie.
Yes, we should actually start. We should talk about like the way it was made and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it was made in 2005, right?
Yeah.
Or released in 2005. But it was made as a silent film with music and some sound effects, but no dialogue. All the dialogue was through text, like in like a Charlie Chaplin movie or whatever.
I think they're called title cards.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was so many. It was just a crazy movie. Like it was all in black and white, and it had like the fake old look to it.
What do you call that?
Film grain and film deterioration.
No. It's like where it's not exactly black and white. Where it's
Sepia?
Yeah, that's it. Sepia toned. Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of like sepia toned as well, and yeah. I'm kind of like getting off track as to what to talk about the movie.
Okay.
there was like a lot. It seemed I was so confused.
Well, do you want to
as to how
talk
it was
about the
made?
cinematography first?
What's up?
Did you want to talk about the cinematography first?
No, not yet.
Okay. What do you want to talk about first?
I was so impressed by like how many settings there were, and just how much work went into this movie. Because I was trying to figure it out. Like, was this like a passion project made by like a few people, or like a community theater that had gotten together and like put money together to make this, or like I was kind of like trying to figure out how much money did they spend making this? What was the purpose of making it? Who was it for? And what I want to know the story of how it got made and stuff. Because
well, there's actually on the DVD, there's a little making of featurette that's almost cool. As long as the movie is.
Oh, that's awesome. We should maybe watch that eventually. That would be cool.
Okay.
But there was so much love put into this movie, and it was so meticulously made. There was miniature work. There was some terrible CGI work that didn't look that bad because it was already grainy because of the film grain look, and like it all was just very carefully put together. Some of it was more effective than other parts of it, but it all kind of worked because of the spirit of it. And you could tell that the people making it were very passionate, and and it had cared a lot. Yeah. One thing I noticed though, there was some electric fans in 1908 or whatever in the background of the scientific meeting.
Well, there were probably fans in 1908, electric fans in 1908. Maybe we'll have to look that up.
Maybe.
But yeah, maybe. But yeah, what this movie has a lot of is charm. I think it's a very charming movie because it obviously is a passion project made by fans.
Yes.
Because the thing is like I think like the ratio, the screen ratio for it is like, it looks like 4:3 to me. So, made for old fashioned TVs.
Yeah.
So like that helps when you have like a low budget movie to do, because you can like, just focus on, all this movie is like, close ups and to medium shots. Yeah. I think the only, go ahead.
There's some wides as far as in the showing of the scenery.
Yeah.
And the island. But
yeah,
most of it is indoors and inside, and close-ups and medium close-ups and two shots and stuff.
Yeah, that's true too. So, yeah. But for like the island part, which is when they, have those wider, that was probably just done in a set, and then, they filmed it and then put in post. What they probably did is like they filmed the actors moving, and then they superimposed, the location. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Compositing. Yeah.
With
that's probably what they
green
did.
Screen work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there was, so they made it look like a silent movie in a lot of different ways. Like they had the people wear like the cakey makeup that you like that you would see in like Nosferatu, or like the really, really old movies of like the 1920s and mainly the 1920s or earlier.
So there's more contrast with the black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had the cakey makeup. They had the costumes were pretty good too. The settings were all really impressive. Go ahead.
Yeah, with the acting, they overacted.
Yes.
Because that's what you have to do in a silent movie, to be, extremely expressive. So
yes, and the facial expressions were so evocative and emotional. Just like, when you watch those silent movies, the actors are so big and broad, but also, they get the job done, and they're subtle enough to get that job done too. It was really impressive the way they made this. I was very pleased.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah.
The
excellent.
The sets were great too. Like, I don't know how they got the island to look like that. Like, they definitely built some of it. And then some of it looked like miniatures. And then even with the Cthulhu, the live Cthulhu, it was like the land. What is it? Like Sleestaks, whatever those, like the stop motion animations.
Yeah, stop motion. Yeah, that's how they did it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like claymation, like early. I forget what it's called, but like like with the skeletons. Is it? Oh man, Jason and the Argonauts.
Claymation. Yeah.
But there's like a specific way that they did it, which made it look so fast and quick moving. Especially in the olden days, that they replicated in this, which was amazing.
Okay, yeah.
Because it wasn't like smooth like Wallace and Gromit claymation. It was like jerky and raw. It was awesome.
Because that's how a special effect is used on a creature. Because when it's stop motion, like all the movements are jerky. But what computer animation allows you to do is to have those creatures, but they're able to do motion blur. And so it's that motion blur that makes creatures look realistic. So
it's that, but also we've gotten better over time at claymation. So whenever you're watching like Fantastic Mr. Fox or Wallace and Gromit, like, it's just so much more smooth because of the tools that they had and the training that those people had, and those all those different types of things that set them apart from when it was just you had to do it by hand or by eye and stuff like that. But it looked great, and it looked it really puts you into the film. It's really fun.
Yeah. This is definitely a fun movie to watch. I think so.
I thought the blocking was really good too. Just everything about it was very, carefully done and thought out. And like they drive like a police cab, Model T.
Into the swamps. And you see how they do that shot with them inside in the making of, and what they do is the camera is just focused on the front, and then they have people out of the frame just kind of slowly rocking it back and forth.
I was
so the car doesn't move. Yeah.
That's amazing. So it didn't even move on its own. They had people pushing it out of frame into the frame and rocking it.
They were just rocking it back and forth. So yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. It reminds me of I recently watched Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. I did it for the newsletter.
Sick.
And so they have the elevators, right? So they go into the elevator, they close the door, and then they open the door, and then Bones is there, and he's like, "Why y'all held up the elevator?" And the director was like, you don't need any effects for an elevator like that. All you have to do is close the door and then open the door, and then the audience will think they're on a different floor now.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So yeah. And I once saw this TikTok. They were in China filming a movie, And so they had like a carriage going forward, and then they had a bunch of PAs holding like little trees running around and around and around to make it look like the trees are going past the windows like it's moving.
Oh my gosh.
I love stuff like that. I absolutely love it.
Incredible.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Nothing a little blood and sweat can't solve in Hollywood.
Exactly.
You don't need special effects or CGI.
Those are special effects. No, they're not going to die running around in a circle.
No.
Okay.
But you do need to sacrifice a few lives so that Cthulhu can wake up.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's what I think why he woke up, too, is because the sailor fell into the pit. So it was almost like a human sacrifice, which allowed Cthulhu to rise as well.
Well, that could have been what the cult on the alert was trying to do. Because the subtext is that the cult was on the alert, and then they went to Relier, but then the alert drifted away, and then it was found by, in the movie.
Yeah.
But it could also be applicable in the story, is that the crew on the alert who were cultists, they somehow summoned the island early. So, yeah. So since this is a silent movie, what did you think of the music?
I thought it was incredible. The piano playing was amazing. The organ playing was amazing. The sound effects were great. It was so complex. Like some classically trained pianist or organist had definitely performed the score, and they were breaking out all those crazy chords. It was amazing.
So evocative, such an evocative score.
Yeah, it was so sweeping. It was just up and down, and so full and big sounding. But still in the same vein of a silent movie type music that you would typically hear. And it was interesting to hear some of the sound effects, because obviously it's like a silent film. Like, you have sound effects, but it felt like they were outside of the movie and inside of the movie at the same time, or portraying what was inside of the movie but also disconnected from the movie. So it gave the effect of the whole movie being like someone telling you what's going on, in a way. And modern movies don't have that as much of a feel. They are more, you experience it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it did have a certain removal. The audience, as the audience, felt a little bit more removed from it because of those things that were missing that you would typically have in a movie. But it was still, bringing me into it with all the technique that they used. I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, great.
I don't know.
Okay, great. So I also wanted to say that so Chad Pfeiffer, he is the actor who played Wilcox in this movie.
Okay.
The artist, okay? And he also worked on some of the music in this movie as well.
Oh, cool.
And then the movie also has a associate producer. What's his name? Hold on. I'm Chris Lackey. And Chris Lackey, he also played one of the sailors who wound up on the island.
Yeah.
So Chris Lackey and Chad Pfeiffer, they have the HP Lovecraft Literary Podcast, and I listened to it. Like I think it started back in the 2010s. And what they did initially was they went through every story written or co-written by H.P. Lovecraft, and kind of, analyzed it and talked about it and all that stuff. And that's really how I got into Lovecraft, by listening to that podcast and finding out what the big deal was with all these stories, because I tried to read it before and it just didn't hit. It just didn't hit when I was younger. But then I listened to the podcast and found out why other people enjoyed it. And I was like, oh yeah, now I can see where you're coming from. And they went through all of Lovecraft's stories. But since then, they've been going through other horror stories. So yeah. If you want to get into Lovecraft, I highly suggest that listen to those past episodes. And they also have a couple of readings too, which are wonderful, because they're readings, but they also have they have a reading of Call of Cthulhu done by Andrew Lehman, the director of this movie. But they also have some of that sweeping scary music that's in this movie to go along with it. And it's so evocative. It's so great to listen to.
That sounds really awesome. So I would like to listen to it. Because when I was listening to the audiobooks or the LibriVox recordings of it, it was very interesting, but also it didn't all come to life, or I couldn't connect all of it. But it's also interesting to read up on the history of H.P. Lovecraft himself, and kind of learn where he might have gotten some of the ideas from it. That's kind of the fun of it too, is to wonder where these ideas came from, in my opinion, because they feel so mysterious. And Lovecraft does like a lot of those little tricks. The reason why this story is so great is because there are so many nested stories. There's stories within stories within stories. And then as we read it, we become part of the story too. So it's like, are we going to pick up this mystery? Because insane, like The Ring?
Yeah. Or are cultists going to come after us after we read this story written by Thurston? Well, what happened to him? We don't know. So, and that's what makes his story, one of his bests for sure. So, yeah, because in the story, like, he includes those coordinates, the latitude and longitude of where Relay shows up and where the alert was and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's funny because who is it? Block. The guy who wrote Psycho.
I don't remember.
Robert Block. Okay. When he was like a teenager. So H.P. Lovecraft, he was very active in like amateur writing circles. And so authors, he would write him letters and he would respond back. So he had a lot of pen pals. And one of them was Robert Block. I think he was a teenager, but I'm not sure. But anyway, Robert Block wrote a story where a caricature of Lovecraft was killed by a creature. So then H.P. Lovecraft did the same in The Haunter. I think it's like The Haunter in the Dark. And he also includes Robert Block's address in that story.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which would be doxing today. But back then, it was to make it more immersive and as a, as a little in joke.
That's
so
fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
So like in his stories, there are lots of like, not just locations, but like street addresses. So, which is what makes his horror like so immersive to readers, and why it's so easy to get caught up into, his stories and the kind of stories that he inspired. So,
I think the favorite one that I had heard was of this this like crazy mountain man who was insane, and I think he was being interviewed by like the main character or whatever, but like it seemed like in the end like someone was speaking through him, like he was possessed. It was cool.
Interesting.
I don't remember if that was correct or not, but
okay, that's okay.
I can try and find it later.
Okay.
But one of the I wrote some things down.
Okay.
Again, mainly about the filmmaking, because it's so much fun and so hands-on. You can tell these people were in every single. They did it all themselves. I love it. There's one shot where Thurston is like writhing around in bed, having one of the nightmares that he's been reading about.
Wilcox. Is it Wilcox?
The narrator, the main character?
No. The main character is Thurston, but Wilcox had the nightmares. Unless you mean the nightmares later.
I mean, like the nightmares
when he got
later.
so into it. Okay.
And there's like shadows of hands like reaching out and like grabbing him as he's like writhing around in bed. And it's great because like they just did shadows and just shot the shadows. It's so good. And it works so well. Let's see. The ship setting is great. There's like the captain is just pulling on a rope for some apparent reason. And his first mate is behind him next to like a rope ladder. But it completely works. It's so good. There's a really good shot where there like Legrasse or someone with Legrasse like steps into like the light, and like it's like backlit heavily, so there's just like these like crazy shadows, and it's all looks like it's coming out
I
of
think that's had a smoke machine too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I thought there was some great blocking too. I especially noticed it whenever they were investigating the ship that was shipwrecked. The captain goes aboard and he goes into the captain, like the cabin where they control the vessel. Forget.
The bridge.
The bridge. Thank you. And
you should watch more Star Trek.
I don't connect them in my mind to actual ships, but I should. So anyways, he goes into the bridge and he like stands at the wheel, and then the first mate comes in, and but we're following along through like the ship's window, seeing that, and then the first mate comes up and looks out the window and kind of like, it's just a nice progression of like, we follow the captain in, and then we see the setting of the bridge, and then we watch as the first mate comes in into the foreground, and we focus on the first mate. It's just simple blocking, but it elevates things completely instead of just cutting back and forth, and where you lose the flow, you lose the continuity, and you lose the emotion of the investigation. I don't know.
Well, Andrew Lehman, the director of this, I believe he has directed other movies. Like he went to film school, but like way before we did. And I think he filmed an adaptation of The Strange Case of Charles Dexter Ward, but he did it on camcorder with a VHS, and then had to edit using that. So, yeah, they, even though like this is, very low budget, like they went to film school, so they know how to do all these technical things. So, like the blocking and so forth. So,
it was definitely well put together. There were some parts were cornier than others, but overall it was completely enjoyable and immersive and fun.
Yeah, but in a movie like this, corny becomes popcorn. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
it adds to the experience rather than detracts from it. So, yeah.
I'm trying to find that specific story from H.P. Lovecraft, but oh wells. Before you go, a special thank you to our bestest friend of the show, Brian. Thank you, Brian, for supporting Your Movie, My Movie. Now, if any of you would like to support the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/yourmoviemymoviepodcast, or leave us a review on whatever you're listening to us on. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.
So are there, do you have any last words about this movie?
Pretty spooky, pretty fun.
Okay.
If you can find it,
would you watch it again?
Yeah, I would watch it again.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably show it to people. But I might watch it again too, and it's nice that it's so short, and it completely feels like a full-length movie, in part because there's so much going on in so many different settings and characters. Oh, what I wrote down was this type of movie follows the story from character to character, kind of jumping freely along from setting to setting, and it's not pinned down. It's it's about the mystery, not any of the investigators specifically. Even it's not really even about the narrator himself. It's about what he's investigating, which is fun.
Yeah. This is a very plot-based story on one hand, but on the other hand, it's the characters that definitely carry the plot. If that makes sense. Yeah. The HP Lovecraft Historical Society, there's another movie. They did another movie, but this time it's a talkie. And it's more feature length. It's an adaptation of The Whisperer in Darkness. So we might watch that at some point for the podcast.
That sounds fun. I am down.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful.
Just not Dagon. It's not Dagon. I'm just kidding. We can watch Dagon. It's fine.
We're going to watch Dagon. We're going to watch Dagon for sure. So the other podcast I'm on, Real Play Games podcast. I have played a lot of Call of Cthulhu on it and other game systems inspired by Lovecraftian horror. And so John and his wife Harmony, they have specifically said that they want to do Dagon with us.
Oh, like they want to watch the Dagon movie with us and be on the podcast?
Yeah, they can't wait to watch.
Nice.
They can't wait to. Yeah, and so now that we're more online, that should facilitate that. So
hell yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. We I'll have to see what their schedule is like. But maybe for next Halloween, we'll see.
There you go.
Yeah. So
sounds like a blast.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, listeners. Well, I think that's it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening, and be sure to tune in next time.
See you later,
Bye.
guys. Bye. Oh, y'all come back now. Yep, come back now, y'all here.
Hey, 自分だ。